That summer by the river, when the days lay long and gold as honey, I learned to listen. The cottage where we stayed smelled of lilac and fresh bread, of wood dust and rain kept in a jar on the sill, for when the air grew hot and still. Grandma's kitchen clock clicked with a patient old gardener rhythm, and the pot on the stove sang softly, as if it too held a secret. My cousins and I came and went in little bursts of laughter and shouted games. She handed me a glass of lemonade that fizzed at the rim and set it on the step between us. Then she rested her hands, worn like river stones, on her knees and said gently, as if speaking to a child who might forget by noon, "Today, my dear, you will learn to listen not with your ears alone, but with your whole self. Not to the loudest sounds, but to the spaces between them." I looked toward the river, where the water slid over rounded stones and the sun stitched glitter into the current. A boat drifted by with the soft throb of its oarlocks and the distant shout of a boy's voice, carried away by the wind until it barely touched our ears. A dragonfly skimmed the surface of a puddle and stilled there, as if listening to something we could not hear. A bird shuffled in the hedge, then froze, and for a moment the world held its breath, with the same quiet that lived in Grandma's eyes when she watched the kettle's steam rise in the light. "Listen for what's not being said, child," she whispered. And when she spoke again, the words came in careful, patient syllables, like stones laid along a path. Hear the space between the water's talk and the bank's answer. Hear the space between your own breath and the air you share with another. She showed me how to count the moments between the birdsong and the whistle of the distant train, how to rest in that pause as if it were a soft, welcoming room. We sat together in that small pause, and slowly the river ceased to be merely water and became a patient teacher. That afternoon, when the heat pressed down and even the leaves appeared to listen, we wandered along the bank to a fallen willow where the grass grew tall and satin soft. Grandma spoke little, but her quiet felt like a current you could lean into. And I, who always believed I must fill the world with my own noise, found myself filling it with nothing but the sound of my own breath and the far-off shush of the river when a breeze drifted across it. It was enough to know that even silence could carry a language if one chose to listen for it. In the days that followed, I learned to distinguish more than birds and water. I learned to feel the difference between a person's agitation and their fear, between an apology spoken aloud and the one offered in a penumbra of gesture. A small touch on a sleeve, a plate pushed forward with a shaky hand, a smile that arrived a beat late but with more truth in it than any words. The lessons were not loud. They did not demand applause. They moved through our mornings like a soft current beneath ordinary acts. Grandma's steady hands kneading dough while the kitchen clock counted time in small increments of care. My cousin Nella's stubbornness tempered by a shared lemonade when the sun grew too bright. My own awkwardness softened by moments of listening that made room for someone else to speak. There are memories I return to still, when the house feels too loud, or when I fear I have spoken too quickly and made a distance where there should be a bridge. I see again the river's surface, a skin of glass that refused to lie, catching light and revealing the truth of a moment, a quiet confession, a breath held and released in the same instant, a trust offered in a single, unglamorous sentence. The memory of that summer keeps teaching me how to be careful with people's words, how to give them the space to unfold, how to trust the soft, unhurried truth, that truth often arrives not with fanfare but with patience. In later years, when I became the one telling stories instead of listening to them, that summer's discipline still travels with me. There are days, late at night, when the house is quiet and my own breath follows a slower tempo. When I hear the old cadence of Grandma's voice in my head, not exactly as a memory, but as a guide. "Listen first," she would say, "and then say your piece with the tenderness you would wish to receive if you stood in the dark and waited for your turn to speak. Not every story must be loud to be true. Not every truth needs to be shouted from a porch. Some truths are learned in the spaces between sounds, in the gentle lamplight of patience, in the quiet decision to listen to someone else's longing before offering your own. Time has built its own soft erosion around those days. My hair is white now, and my hands bear the map of years, knuckles creased like the river's winding shore. Yet the river itself remains, in memory, a constant companion, a ribbon of light that travels through rooms and years, always widening when I need room to breathe, always narrowing for a moment when someone's voice needs space to land. The world has grown louder in some ways, louder with the noise of news and hurry, louder with the way we mistake speed for care, with the way we mistake bravado for strength. But if you listen for the spaces, there is a gentler sound beneath it all, the quiet, unassuming music of ordinary moments, when someone waits, when a person chooses not to fill the silence with their own need, but to hold it with someone else's need in mind. I am grateful for that summer, not because it was bright or dramatic, but because it was real in the most ordinary way. It showed me that a life of kindness is built, not on bold gestures, but on the steady architecture of listening. To a river, to a grandmother, to a cousin's frustrated sigh, to a neighbour's sigh of relief after a shared joke, to the spaces between words that often carry more weight than the words themselves. Time moves forward with its heavy, inexorable pace, yet meaning remains nimble, able to travel with us if we tend it with care. The art of listening, I've learned, is a gift you keep giving to others and to yourself. It is the quiet soil in which love grows. And so I carry that summer with me, not as a photograph or a moment frozen in a frame, but as a living practice I return to when the day becomes unsteady. The smell of lilac, the bread's warm scent, the river's patient sigh, the old wooden steps, Grandma's exact but gentle instruction to listen. These are not merely memories. They are a way of being in the world, a way to measure what matters by what remains when the noise fades. The ability to hear the truth that lies in between the sounds and to treat that truth with care. Time may pass, but the listening remains. And for that enduring mercy, I am quietly grateful.